Yay, we are recording! And before getting into this very far, well, it is going medieval. Cues originally provided by Tinsley PR. So there was an update this week, a minor update, bug fixes and improvements, but I want to talk about some of them. We now have underground water sources have been added to valley and hillside map types, but you need to start a new game, so I'm not doing that. Mountains and marshes don't have underground water. It's like, this is good. I can understand adding this later. That's like, all right, let's get water in there, then we can do this. But this is a thing that it needs to be there because it is real. Bunch of stuff about enemies I don't actually care about. Bales fill up faster when under the edges of the roof. Okay. Yeah, and this one's kind of funny. 6 settlers can use a single well simultaneously when extinguishing fires. Up to 6 settlers can use a single well simultaneously when fetching water for production. It's like, you could have combined those. You can now order a settler to bring water to a bale via right click. I tried that the first day. It's obvious it should have been on the first day. Why are we getting it now? Wait, what? Okay, sorry, 2 of these, I'm a little... Added construction skill level in the building selection panel. Okay, I think I know what that means. And added information about stability in the info cursor when placing structures like walls and floors. I'm a little unsure about that one. I mean, because that information has been visible. Is it just now in a different place? Or in an additional place? Hope it's just in an additional place and they didn't remove it from where it had been. We'll find out. I was just thinking about what all I got to talk about. Of the regular news, it wasn't that much that I think was interesting enough to talk about now. I just realized a typo. It's funny, even though notes like this is something only I see, and I also delete them once I'm done with the video, but still, I will fix these. Okay. So first things first. No. I was expecting it, hang on. Add a construction skill level in the building selection panel. This is building selection panel, but I'm not seeing anything on that. Yes, I got no idea then. Unless they do mean something like you select here and it tells you about why. So why give that information here? Oh no, it does. My head is in my hand. Because what is this? Okay, so you have to click on it. You have to click on it for it to be shown there. That you need level 10 building skill to construct it. Which is also kind of insulting because you don't have a way to just intentionally increase building skill. It's like you'd have to just build, destroy, build, destroy, build, destroy, build, destroy to build it up if you have everyone too low. They inexcusably need training for this stuff, but anyway. Why do I have to click on it? Why can't it be in the mouse over here? I was like, you already are showing the building material requirement. It's an equal level of requirement. Equal level as in equal significance. That if I don't have somebody with a building skill of 10, I can't build this. Just as if I don't have 100 limestone brick. In fact, limestone brick is easier to get because that might just be, okay, well, somebody's manufacturing it. It'll be ready eventually. But skills like, no, you have to intentionally do that. Should be shown in the mouse over it, in the tooltip. It shouldn't be only shown here. That is dumb. That's quite dumb. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, stability in the cursor confirmed. So... See, we stability 4 is right there. This is why I'm a little curious. Okay, so they had... They, Notice stability in the lower left-hand corner. Capital S. It's lowercase e. I'm sorry. That just annoys me, in part because I was, when I was doing QA for 10 years, that's exactly the kind of thing that I spotted and I would report. A lot of other people wouldn't, because it's like, oh yeah, it just says stability. That's how people see it. But it's like, no, it should be uppercase there. What was it? What was it? That's right. There were also other things I would notice, like one that, no, and it had been in there for a while before I noticed it, but cast rate. The space between there wasn't very visible. So it was saying cast rate, or at least it was easily read that way. No one knows that, and that was like that for weeks or months. And it's like, yeah, can we change that? Can we make sure we have that space there? Okay, what else was there? Okay, bugs and fixes doesn't really have anything interesting there. Known issue. Settlers will not choose the closest production building, assuming there's more than one, but the one that has a production set first in a global list of productions. So... these, I can change the order. So it's basically if I have one of these over here, and I need to make iron, they want to change it so that if the one over here, because all 4 of these are set to be able to do everything, but I have changed the order, the priority of them. So basically it would run to... Wait, what? So, huh? Okay, so this should be set to forever then. Oh wait, no, I don't... No, it should be, because all the others are. But anyway, so it would... Because this one is closer, it would make iron here, even though this one actually has a higher priority. That's not a known issue. That's saying that, oh yeah, the production queue we're gonna ignore, so why have it? I mean, I get the idea of having intelligence as far as where things should be done. I get that, and I like that. Some games do it very nicely, like that Star Drive game that... Did I ever purchase Star Drive 2? I know I purchased Star Drive 1. I think I'm pretty sure I also reviewed it. It had some really neat and intelligent design stuff there. Like, the one thing I wish we would see in other games is, you can design an army, even how its layout should be. You then control the entire army as one. But you can design the whole army without any of the units. You hit a button and it'll schedule to build all of them. Every unit in there. But it would also assign the building to whatever would get the ships. It was space-based. Ships to you fastest, so it's fleets, not armies. But still, it would do that to get it to you the fastest. So it weighed not only distance, but also production speed, because some worlds had faster production speeds than others. So it would weigh all that. And yes, it could end up having a ship produced on the other side of the galaxy, on the other side of the map, perhaps I should say. Because the build time and travel time for that would be less than it being built next to you, immediately next to you, because that may take so long a time. It considered that stuff. That made sense. This is like, oh yeah, we'll just ignore your ordering here if this is closer. It's like, what? I don't know. I'm not certain on that one. I'm really not. I feel like you need to have other things involved. I mean, I guess it would. I guess it needs to have something else there, which is these are set so that they can do any of them, any of the 4 ingots. So in theory, a settler would go to any of them. I would hope it would mean then that the production queue, it's not like if this one didn't have iron, somebody would come here to try to do that. Hopefully they are excluding that. I don't know though. It is just kind of weird. I also just realized, how much iron do I have? Because technically with that set to forever does mean that I would run out. Okay, I got plenty of iron. But I think I will still... No, hang on. Because I don't want to eat up all my iron. But anyway, if they were changing the design so that now, like production queue being more like if you had a board and it's just, okay, I need these things produced, and it would just use whatever is available. So instead of production being set at this, it's more a meta tracking system of all production that is then just whatever can produce it produces it. That I'd be okay with. That's a major overhaul to the system. I would only advocate for that if it could also include groupings. So, for example, this can... What is it? I don't think Dung brick doesn't sound too interesting or something I want to use. Anyway, but like, I need coal for making... Actually, do I need it for all this? Well, I need fuel for everything, but I definitely need it for steel. So if it was something like, okay, I can group these two together so that this only makes coal for that, which in theory you could do with such a meta production queue thing, that you could then assign, okay, this has this pipeline. If they would also implement that, then I'd advocate for moving to a meta production thing where it's just, no, these are places where things are produced. That isn't where you control what is produced. I mean, you would have some capability there, I think would be fair, but if you could do that, then with the pipeline stuff, then I think it would be worth trying to do, but otherwise, no, I wouldn't bother with trying to do that meta stuff. No. Come on. I just realized this is actually still water. Whereas this is frozen. That's interesting. It still says water there. But I mean, that clearly appears to be frozen. Interesting. Very interesting. And they've still not... Can I... I have no idea what that noise is, by the way. Yeah, I'm just gonna try that. I do not know what's hitting the... At some point, what has occurred to me I need to try doing is, it seems like you are able to eat. Yeah. Anyway. Oh. How did... I don't... What? Hang on. Okay, so I can... I mean, that does need to be cleaned up, doesn't it? Anyway, damn it, now I lost what I was thinking about, what I was wanting to say. Okay, there. Yeah, I know I am trying to make them do construction stuff. That's why I did want to check on this. Alright. Let me actually look. What is... No idea why that was paused. Alright, what kind of thing do I want to be working towards here? I don't need that. Tapestry might be nice to have, though. Distilling as well. Well, those are enabled. As are these, so... Really just need somebody to actually get to it. Both halted by low temperatures, so even though there is next to it isn't enough. I mean, well, that is true. We are in a cold snap, so. But still, let's go up to high. So I'm not too concerned about fuel. And also, I did just remember, I got news stuff I can talk about, don't I? Yeah, so the main thing that I have news, even though it's not something I would write up because it's console news, is the Nintendo has teased, I guess technically that is the correct way to put it, teased the Switch 2. So their successor to the Switch. Which, I did look at the teaser. It seems like the screen is larger. There's more ports on it. Changed to the Joy-Cons so that they, instead of like sliding and snapping in, they're going to attach magnetically with a port in there, which some people are predicting it looks bad that the plugs may break. It's like, I don't know. I mean, yes, there's potential there, but what we were seeing was certainly a CG model, not a production unit. So it is possible to me that we will see something done specifically to protect, to reinforce those ports. So I'm not too concerned. And I will admit, am I one who's actually interested? Okay, that did work. That did melt this, even though we are still in the cold snap. So that is good, which means that... Oh, no, it does... Well... Okay, we'll go with halted by low temperature. How about... Yep, even by that. Well, once the cold snap ends and we get daylight, that may change. Anyhow, it is kind of one of those funny things, because I have enough love for Nintendo from when I was a kid that there was that part of me that's like, I would like to get a Switch or something like that. But it's also I'm barely playing what games I have. I don't need to buy something to play more that'll likely just sit around doing nothing. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, but I mean, it would also be different. Like if I mean, as it is, I don't have any when I play with. I don't have any friends that play games. It's really kind of sad, but it is what it is. Yeah, there was no. I'm now just actually looking at the notes and going by memory. Nothing on specs though. I think I did see a rumor suggesting it will support DLSS. Because for those who may not remember, Nintendo has a contract with Nvidia for the Switch. Makes sense they would continue that for the Switch 2, which it will be interesting to find out the specs, because one thing I do kind of remember that was interesting and was curious. I don't know why this person is unconscious. Don't know to change their clothes. Let them freeze to death, okay? I honestly don't care. If the AI is so dumb it can't realize that it should change to winter clothes, let it die. I'm done with that aspect of this game. Anyway, I want to say that my memory for when the Switch 1 was announced, they actually were using Tegra 1 chips, which it seemed to me that what was going on was Nvidia had a bunch of these made, but they weren't being sold. No one was using them. So they gave Nintendo a good deal on them. Even though Tegra 2 had at least been announced, if not was actually available at the time. So like Nintendo actually did pick a known inferior technology because that's what was likely the most accessible to them. So now they have so many additional years of work. See, this is I want Steward to be higher. Oh, okay. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what all is achieved with that. But also the it's supposedly supporting DLSS scares me. It legitimately does, because I do believe DLSS, and also, I mean, technically a lot of the RTX effects, but DLSS and FSR, all of that, I think is ultimately going to be recognized as a negative on the game industry. That we will, when history books are written, it will be, yes, for these years, this technology was used, but afterwards it was recognized it should never have been allowed to reach such dominance. Because it's enabling you to not optimize your game. Now, hopefully with Nintendo, they would be like, yeah, no, we're still going to optimize the hell out of our games. I mean, you need to remember that some of the original consoles, and some people have been talking about this, like, you had cartridges that had like 16 megabytes of storage on there. And they could fit games on there with fairly good detail as well. Like, they were experts at optimizing for space, for compressing and all that. That seems no one has much interest in today. It's like, you got games that are hundreds of gigabytes. It's like, why? But we're also now seeing like games where it's like, because like the meme, to a point, I don't know how actually accurate it is yet, for DLSS 4 is that you can have a game actually running at 30 frames per second, but because of DLSS 4 and the hallucinated frames, it'll be presenting to you as 120. But it's like the latency is 30. And depending on the game, that is unacceptable. My rule of thumb is, if it's a third-person game, 30 FPS is actually workable. That's tolerable. If it's a first-person game, it's not. You have to have 45 is I generally consider the low end for a first-person game. 50 is where it's like you like that should be the minimum, and obviously over 60 is best. But yeah. So the idea of DLSS coming there, and hopefully it would just be like third parties using it to make up for the lack of skill at optimization and such. But Unfortunately, that's not necessarily what will be the case. And that is quite disappointing. I mean, I legitimately... I like FSR better than DLSS, but that's mainly just because of it being open source, so it can be tweaked, can be applied in other ways. And to a degree, XCSS then as well, because at least that runs on multiple things. I don't remember if it is open source or not. I think there is an open source component. But DLSS being so locked down and basically being... it's benchmark. It's meant for benchmarks at this point, I think. That's part of the reason NVIDIA pushes it, is so they can say, look, we can have these hundreds of FPS even at 4K. It's like, well, yeah, but it's not actual frames. So, I mean, I even saw something talking about how they want you to be using play time instead of render time, which, if you actually look at some of my old reviews or performance analyses, I would sometimes report on render time, which is, well, technically not, but MS between present is when you use something that akin to PresentMon, the tool PresentMon. So, like, I use OCAT when I collect performance data, and that does use PresentMon. It holds a whole bunch of statistics. So actually, the series statistics, the sync encounter would definitely cover a lot of this. But MS between present, so the present API call is what's actually saying, hey, start drawing a frame. Okay? So the time between those is the time approximately it takes to render the frame. That's not true. There's other things included in there beyond just the rendering, but it's still, that's the call to start the process, and it's not going to start the next until the previous finished. So it is an effective time between rendering. But there's also MS between display chain. Or MS between, I think there's both MS between display and display change. But in any case, that's basically the time between frames being shown on the monitor. And these can be different. Generally, I find when they are not different or very, very near each other, that's the best experience you will get. But there are some games where the render time will fluctuate, but the display time will be very solid. And that may be that it's doing some kind of VSync. But because of the disagreement between them, you can get a noticeable stutter. Where the feeling is stutter, because that's basically throwing off the latency. Whereas display time matching, even with VSync, because that can be done, is the better experience. Okay, no, that's just... So, apparently, NVIDIA has tried requesting... You use display time, because it's going to look better than present time. I don't know if that's true or not, but it is still kind of the point of, this river should be able to freeze. Anyway, that these are very different statistics, and you do need to be mindful of that, especially if this is true and there is an effort to try to change what you're reporting on, because it's kind of like how, and this has happened multiple times, the Labor Department in the US does actually record a lot of statistics concerning unemployment. Administrations will decide to change what number it is that they report as the unemployment number. And they will do that because one may be more favorable. I think it was in the Obama years that they changed it, and that actually swung it from like 4.1 to 3.8% unemployment, where the actual unemployment number did not change. Like from that quarter, or maybe it was from month to month, there was effectively no change in the employment rate. But by just changing the value, it swung under 4%. It's like, yeah, that's... Whoever does that, I remember that being under Obama, but whoever does that, that's still wrong. That is a manipulation of the people, because most people don't realize that there are multiple statistics and that they can change. If I remember correctly, that change was the standard number at that time, but I'm pretty sure even that changed from what it had been, was a payroll number. So it was the actual reporting from companies as far as how many people are on your payroll. So how many people are employed by these companies. They changed it to a phone survey, which was asking how many people in the household have an income. Which has a couple issues. One is people not necessarily understanding the question. And so giving an answer that would not be completely true. But also it would mean then that contractors or subcontractors who, like, yes, I have a job, but they're not actually going through payroll, or people who are being paid under the table are suddenly reporting yes, when the other statistic would be no, they're not. And not just we're trying to hide something, but no, that they're genuinely not on our payroll. They're on somebody else's. So it was a change that to a less reliable number. But the key thing, and this is what my actual point is changing the statistics to any other number. So now it's being tracked differently. That is a problem, because now you lose the ability to do historical comparisons. But it was politics, they'll do that. But it's DLSS, they'll do that. And it's also just such a radically different technology from DLSS 3 that it's further inappropriate to do historical comparisons there. There is an argument, and I do grant, I do think that holistic looks at game performance are important. So, one example that I'll have for that is and let me be clear. The example I'm about to give, the comparison I'm about to give, is, I'm not saying that my way is better. I'm not saying somebody else's way is worse. My point is just that it is still valid. The reasons for it are different. The rationale for it is different, but it is still valid. So right now, I don't have on this computer anything open besides Steam. Well, anything that'd be taking much resources besides Steam and OBS, which, yes, I am encoding with the CPU, so there is that hit there. But I may, when I'm on my desktop, especially back before I had the test system, I would still have my email application open, Thunderbird, and I would still have my browser open in the background, and maybe a few other things. But mainly it would be the browser and Thunderbird that would be open that would occasionally be hitting the performance. That does not invalidate any of the data to me, because it also is a Threadripper CPU, so it should be able to handle it as far as just raw horsepower, if not purely speed. But in any case, a lot of people will have applications like that open all the time on their computer. So it is still valid to report data on that, because realistically, that's what a lot of people may actually experience. This is in contrast to those who may actually do reviewers who will actually do like completely fresh installs of Windows once a month, making sure it's completely clean, that there is nothing running on there. I think some of them will even disable antivirus. It's like, yeah, I get how that is. You're trying to control every variable. I don't disagree with that. And I wouldn't disagree with it. My point is... Oh, I'm hearing them, I think, working on this. Anyway, my point is that because the actual experience can be with these variables in place, you don't need to obsess over removing them. Another example would be when I did the thermal analysis, especially the CPU thermal analysis. I see people introducing variables actually by accident, where they'll do things where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to use an external sensor. We're not going to use the onboard sensor. We're going to report the delta T, so the temperature over ambient, which that I think is a false statistic anyway. I can explain that. Whereas I would just use, especially because I have AMD processors, I use sensors that are in the processor, always. They're consistently there, and always in the same position and such. So it's like I use that data because that doesn't change. It isn't so variable. So an external sensor, I get how, okay, yeah, we're controlling some variables here. It's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean it is better. It's a different method. That doesn't necessarily make it better than just using what the CPU itself is reporting. Especially when you consider the CPU report is, for most people, what, if they pull something up to see the temperature, that's what they're seeing. or if they have fans being controlled by the CPU temperature, that again is what it's being based on. But it's also the delta T over ambient. I hate that. I actually despise that because it is. Whenever I see that, they never report what the ambient temperature is. So it's like, that does vary, and it's also what is it over the time period of the test. Because you are dumping heat into the environment. Unless you have something that is evacuating that heat efficiently, you are potentially going to have a higher temperature at the end of your test than at the beginning. So you actually need to be constantly monitoring that and constantly showing it. We're constantly reporting it to the person when looking at the graph. So it's like, okay, you're actually adding a variable because we don't know. Whereas if you're just reporting the raw temperature off the CPU, well, guess what? That ambient temperature is in there. It's hidden. You can't dissect it out, but it is there. So we have more information there, actually, than with the delta T. But that's also why when I was doing that stuff, in theory, I might have been able to come up with a measurement for delta T. But instead, I just found, okay, what's the median temperature at idle when the CPU is idling? I just would look at that, because that, I think, is a far more reasonable value. For one thing, it's the same sensor, so all error would be identical between then and under load. But also, it idle is what I think the better comparison is, because that's hey, I'm not doing anything. How hot will this get if I start doing something? That makes sense to consider. Like, how good is a cooler at managing the temperature of something when it, if I suddenly put it under load, at handling that increase in temperature? Because it's, as I said, your ambient temperature, that changes. That can change during the test. That can also change throughout the year. Like right now, it's winter, so we're having to artificially heat the home, but it is the amount of temperature will, how hot it is will vary throughout the day. And it will be, on average, colder now than in August. And it's like, okay, so you need to very precisely control that. Whereas if it's just the median, if you're just basing it off the idle temperature, yes, that still is going to vary, but it's, at least you don't have to worry about where's the sensor placed. You don't need to worry about, because it's still the raw data that I'm importing. It's not like I'm hiding what the temperature, the ambient temperature. I mean, I get the desire for doing something like delta T, but I also recognize it is a dumb metric unless you are providing all this other information that I've never seen anyone provide. Yeah, which is why I went to a different system that I do believe is better. To just, here's the idle temperature before the load and after. Because that's another thing that I would do is, let's see how well it cools off. That was a lot of fun. At some point I should probably, well, I don't know. It's just one of those things. There's a lot of stuff that I should try to do. How the hell did I select? How is that even a thing that I'm selecting something I can't see? Anyway, anyhow, yeah, it's just the priorities on my time have changed so much over the recent couple of years that it's, as much as I would like to do some of that stuff again, it's like I don't have the ability to. I also don't have the space to. It's like I'm not in that large a space, and it seems like I just keep filling it up with more things. But it really is more just there's so many things that are applying pressure to what time I have available. So, yeah. Summer. Winter. Well, they like, that's what they came in. Summer. Winter, summer. Yeah, force equipped. I didn't force anything on them. That's just what they came in. But yeah, this is just... I'm sorry, it is so beyond stupid. That's like, they will not put on, of their own free will, appropriate clothing when the weather changes. Even though they will suffer from the cold because of this. And I can't tell them, go change. That's not a thing. I would have to have them take off their clothes so they'll be naked until they go and get that. But, hey, now, 6 settlers can use a single well simultaneously when extinguishing fires. We have that. I mean, I would almost be tempted, like, if I were QA there, to just be like, look, get rid of the summer-winter clothing. But it's, no, get rid of it. It is a drain on the game. It has zero purpose, because we have no means of controlling it. They don't change it. They don't change their clothes when they should. But, no. Either you fix that, or take it out. Okay? Because at this point, it is reaching the level of being an embarrassment. It legitimately is. It legitimately is an embarrassment at this point. That this has been a thing from, like, almost day one, I want to say. And it clearly isn't fully integrated into the experience. It clearly isn't. Come on, there we go. No sense spending the fuel there. But no, I mean, that legitimately is also part of this. Is that we do have these things where it's like, well, no, it just shouldn't be removed. It should be removed. Because it is clearly not serving, it is clearly not complete. So, just cut it out. And maybe that's exactly what the developers need at Foxy Voxel. Somebody to just be like, yeah, get rid of it. But you can do this stuff with, it's like, no, you can't, because it's not in there. It's like basically say, get rid of it or fix it. That's your option. Not leave it at how it is. Get rid of it or fix it. Will that happen? I doubt it. I'm just thinking about how long they've gone as it is. Okay, I guess it does make some sense. Can't click on that. Yeah, and that failure to make those changes, despite all this time, yeah. Now, I will grant that, in theory, they might have Agile? Is that it? There's even names of different approaches to development. And I want to say one of them is supposed to be kind of a spiral thing where you do something, but it might not be complete before you move on to the next thing, but you're supposed to then wrap back around and take care of it then. Which, for some situations, makes sense. But it also makes sense that you can't do that in game development or any software development, because as you're going around the spiral, you're also adding new priorities. So by the time you would come back and could fix things, it's like, well, yeah, but we also have to maintain this other stuff. So you're actually, by the time you come back, you don't necessarily have the time anymore to do those fixes you want to do, you intended to do. But I remember, well, okay, to be clear, my parents would remember it, and I've been told about it, that when I was in elementary school, at least for some of the years, it had a spiraling curriculum. What that meant was I'm curious. If I do that, will that force it to get moved? Okay. Got it. Okay. Even though this is a waste stockpile, yep, because it's new. Okay, so now that stuff might get hauled away. Okay, because I have a feeling that that's actually leading to some of the death here. Because that should be prompting disease. Anyhow, and I do kind of remember with some of the spiraling stuff, but it is, I've been told this. Because the idea there is, yes, you learn something, but even if a student doesn't fully understand it yet, you move on because you eventually come back. So an example of this that I think did actually happen for me was this is a problem potentially. Okay, I still got male and female sheep, so maybe it's not so big a problem. But it's troubling, and they need to be fed. I have no idea what you think you're doing, but this is what's happening. Was like multiplication. When first being taught multiplication, you obviously would learn single-digit multiplication. You would then move on, even if somebody doesn't fully get that, and then when you come back, you may be doing double-digit multiplication, which obviously is built on single, but you've given time now for the person to relax some, because sometimes that's all you need, the whole sleep on it principle. But you come back to it, and now you've built on it, and so even then, just having like a new goal for how it's important, what you can do with it, that alone can also help people. So that makes sense. But you're not, in that kind of setup, you're not necessarily adding to the priorities, adding to the pressures on your time. You might actually be reducing it, because there are things that you want to achieve that you are actually working through as you're going. So I may want to come up with a new stockpile further away as well. Okay. Yeah, I'll stick over here. There. Oh, and that should be very high priority. There. I'll even... So this is basically sterile. Well, except for the carcasses. Oh. I mean, it's not relevant yet, but still, I'll do that. But there, that way it's far enough away that it shouldn't be causing any kind of disease. Also do that. Okay. But yeah, so I could believe that it's just something like that, where it's like, oh yeah, we always meant to come back, but you're not. And you're having things compete with your time as well, so... But yeah, I mean, it's like you need to... Actually, this might be a good example of that. In how barrels you need wax, but beekeeping is up here, so it doesn't block your ability to unlock barrels, even though you need wax to build any barrel. It's like it might be oh yeah, cleaning this up is on the list of things to do, but you have developing barrels, so that gets done first. Because that gets done, and it's like, oh yeah, we have to do that. It's like, this becomes the higher priority, because that's new development versus quality of life change, fixing all this stuff up. I'll try to wait and get distilling. before unlocking Tapestry. But yeah, I mean, I could believe that that's what's going on here, which is disappointing because that is poor scheduling. That you're not recognizing that these things are the more important work to do. Because, I mean, it's kind of the whole, okay, yeah, you're doing this, but your foundation is lousy. You need to improve the foundation of your house needs to be addressed before you start making additions. Kind of thing. What did you do? Preparing food. What? Why was... No. You're doing that. Why the heck was that in there? Ay. Hey, I do have plenty of food. Okay. I know. I want that done. Get it done. But yeah, so it is... How long have I been going? Okay. I do want to... Oh. Okay. I actually wanted to go at this last autosave. Okay, so now... Locate that back. And that can just be whenever. I don't actually care. It's more... I care about fixing... You know what? Cancel this. It's going to stay right where it is, as a constant reminder that this system was implemented without thoroughly thinking it through. I don't remember if I actually put out my notes on this. I should. My review notes for this. Because it could get lost in all the different examples of something being implemented but not completely. Well, something being added without thoughtful and complete implementation. Uh-huh. Let me look at this. So, caps are not being made. Because, there's armor to be made. Because that's still tailoring. One, two. Okay, two. At least it does explain what I've been hearing, but it still is, why is armor making under tailoring? I get a gambeson is made out of textiles. I get that. But it's No. I just want to see the materials. This leather, wood, yeah. Job type, carpentry. Job type, so you're mixing the stuff there. But wait a minute. Oh my god, that is so... They can't have that. They need to change that. You can't do that. Because look at this. I can prioritize production at this station. That's what I can do here. Is say, hey, work on this. Oh, but he has 0 for tailoring, but he might have very high... well, he doesn't in this case. But let's say he had very high carpentry. That he was at 40 for carpentry, but 0 for tailoring. But if I tell him to prioritize right now, oh, we do the light armor. That's tailoring. But I want him to make bucklers. That's carpentry. Oh my god. They really. This is bad. It really is just such a we don't know how the system that we built works. Like what it enables you to do, what it doesn't enable you to do, and what it confuses. I'm done. I'm not gonna wait for the midnight autosave. We're just moving on. I did have another thing I could talk about, but it's nothing that I mean it is interesting, but I don't think it's worth spending longer in here. Just oh my god. That is so disappointing. It really is. And I hope that the mic still picked me up because I did lean back kind of far from the microphone. But no, that is so disappointing. Realizing that it's it is getting to the point because I know it's like I'll talk about how it feels like somebody just needs to come in and tell them stop all development. We're gonna fix this stuff. But some of this it is so confused and incoherent at this point that I wonder if even that is possible. Like could you be able to say stop and fix this and trust that it would actually get fixed? Kind of thing. That it might be such an overhaul that there could be pushback as far as we can't. It would end up meaning we have to rebuild half the game. Which my point if I were to be in that conversation, my point would then be, well, then I guess you should have been doing this all along, shouldn't you? That you are now left with the choice of rebuilding half the game, and this is all hypothetical, but rebuilding half the game to make this work right, or ultimately shipping a broken game. That is what this feels like. That's what this is at least starting to feel like, and that is exceptionally disappointing. Because it should be better. And it's also, as it says on the thumbnail, this is in early access right now. This ideally is something that shouldn't, even in an early access game, shouldn't be happening. That people should be complaining about it. I have been complaining about it. Obviously, I'm not writing it. I have my doubts that anyone from the development team would ever watch these, would ever see these, but still is such obvious weaknesses in the design development that's just not being addressed, and it is so very disappointing. But hey, maybe I'll be lucky and we will get Titan Quest 2 released soon, and I can start on that, because that, as I said, I am focused enough, my interest in that is focused enough and personal enough. I don't think I will review it. I want that to enjoy, just on my own. I will be doing videos in it, yes, but I might decide then to be vocal. To share my thoughts on it, like on the Steam forums or wherever, so that instead of just having a open secret-esque voice, I'd almost describe this as, where it's like, I mean, yes, it's open, anyone can, all this stuff is public. But I don't necessarily try to draw attention to this as far as, hey, developers, look at this. I don't do that because ultimately I do want to review this game. I don't want to be changing the game I'm reviewing it as I'm reviewing it. But I'm not hiding this, obviously. Whereas with that, it might be more of a, I would come up with all my notes from playing it, and then maybe would be here's a video out there, but also maybe if there's a Steam forum that I could make a thread on there talking about how, okay, these are all of my criticisms at the moment. And put that up there, because then the developers will see it. Also, other people in the community might see it. And do that. I don't know if I necessarily would do it, because I'm not always that kind of aggressive with this stuff, but potentially I could do that. But the moment I do that, I don't think it's valid for me to review the game. But it's like, for Titan Quest 2, I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with that be more of I'm doing because I want to do it. I haven't actually touched it for over a couple months now, but I have over 330 hours in Titan Quest Anniversary Edition. And I know there are people with far more than that. But still is I am not inexperienced when it comes to the original game. I like the original game, and in that one video where I gave my commentary to their game developer commentary on it, that one thing that was concerning me in that was what I was seeing was, okay, how is this a sequel? How is this Titan Quest 2 versus a sequel to Path of Exile versus a sequel to Diablo? Which I get they're technically all the same genre, but they are different games. And it felt like, okay, if I want to play a sequel to Diablo, I'll buy a sequel to Diablo and play that. If I want to play a sequel to Path of Exile, I will buy the sequel to Path of Exile and play that. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a sequel to Titan Quest. And that may be, when Titan Quest 2 comes out and I start playing, that may be the heart of a lot of criticism that I have, where it's like, this isn't how Titan Quest works. And then, like, using the health potion thing, I could write actually probably multiple paragraphs explaining why it should be how it was originally. That let us manage the inventory. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's from Titan Quest. And I guess one other thing, because this thought that occurred to me for another reason, for something else entirely. When you have something established, so you have established fans, you have an established community, all that, there comes a point where stop thinking about trying to bring people into the fandom. You don't need to do that. The fans are going to do that. Okay, so it's like with Titan Quest 2, there's Titan Quest 1 fans right now. That if you make Titan Quest good, if you make Titan Quest 2 good, these people are already trying to get their friends to play Titan Quest. They're already singing its praises. You make Titan Quest 2 a good successor to Titan Quest, they will do the same thing for that. Okay? You already have that. You don't need to try to make it Path of Exile because, oh, look at that popularity. Well, maybe we can pull some people over from that because it'll be the same experience for them. It's like, no. You don't need to worry. Do you need to market? Do you need to advertise to try to bring people in? Yes. But at that point, like if you're trying to get Path of Exile players interested, just using it as an example, you market it as, hey, it's in the same genre, but it's a different setting. We have these different things because our goals are a little different than theirs. So a Path of Exile player a Path of Exile player might be like, oh, that's interesting. I do like this genre. I'll give this a chance. Plays it, and maybe they like it. But as far as like actually building the fans of it, let the fandom take care of that. Let the fandom take care of that. Let the community take care of that. That is part of its existence, is trying to grow itself. Also trying to keep people out that, part of a Titan Quest fandom could also be you're looking for Path of Exile. You're not looking for Titan Quest. Go over there and enjoy Path of Exile. And let me be clear, that is not a get out of here. That is if you genuinely prefer Path of Exile's experience to Titan Quest, go and play Path of Exile. Why? I mean, it's like, that's going to be more enjoyable to you, so seek that out. The idea of trying to make something for everyone is foolish. But also the idea that we're going to copy somebody else's homework, okay, well, then that also means you can only get what they already have, and even then only a fraction of it. You'll never, get Path of Exile's community to come over to Titan Quest. It doesn't work that way, because they want Path of Exile. That's why they're that community, so... Anyway, and the thing I was actually thinking about concerns Star Trek with that, but it is still the same kind of argument, that the fandom, the community, once you have it, you can kind of allow it to focus on building the community. You work on satisfying what it wants, also satisfying yourself. I don't believe any creator should be a slave to their fans, as far as, oh, the fans want this, okay, I'll do that. They should listen to, they should pay attention to, and be respectful towards them and their criticisms. But at the end of the day, it's still your creation. My point is just that once you have them, you can rest on, hey, you've done something good here. Now continue trying to do something good. You don't need to try to bring somebody to you. It's like the sort of Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. It's like, but the nature of it in that movie is he built something good that people wanted, people desired, as it is. He built, it would be like, Field of Dreams. It's a baseball field. Okay, it would be like, oh, now we'll build a football field because we might get football. It's like, no. What was special was to the baseball field. And there's a lot of American mythology in that movie as well, as far as baseball is an American sport, essentially, and how, It's part of American existence, is how it's basically presented in that movie. And I'm not saying football isn't, but it's just that's what you're tapping into, that they will come. That's what you're achieving there. So trying to be like, oh, well, now I'll just try to replicate the thing, but with football, it's like, well, that's a very different experience. It's a different game. And it's like, yeah, it's not the same thing. Because it's also like with football, it's the physicalness of it is completely different. And also how you can sit and enjoy it is different. Because you've got, there is more violence in football, and not in a bad way, but it is, you're tackling each other, you're slamming into each other. That's not really the case in baseball. So it is such a different experience to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to pull that in and just come and do that. Whereas, you can't rely that would work the same. Just because, oh, it worked this way, now let's try to copy it over here. Let's take some things there, but then, completely copy off of football to do this. Like, that's not how that necessarily works. But it's also how you can sit and watch it. With baseball, you can have the bleachers there and you can sit and watch. And I think that, almost passively. With football, though, if you had bleachers there, is there any football stadium that doesn't have a wall so that the violence can't spill out towards it and the fans can't spill onto the field, kind of thing? I mean, it seems like there's always that wall there. You don't have the seats going all the way down. So, yeah, I know that was meandering, but I think that that's kind of valid with how I was talking about with Titan Quest. Anyway, but definitely meandering. And yeah, I added 10 minutes onto this. I could have talked about the MIT thing. Whatever. All right. I guess I'll just see you next time.